Not everything buried in the earth can be explained. Some ruins look like nothing more than piles of stone, half-forgotten relics of time. But when we look closer, they tell a story far beyond imagination. They whisper of hands that shaped them with impossible skill, of minds that may have held knowledge we no longer understand. These are the kinds of mysteries that no textbook dares to answer. They sit in deserts, mountains, and jungles across the world, silent, stubborn, and unwilling to give up their secrets. For centuries, scholars have tried to fit them neatly into the story we already know. But what if those stories are incomplete? What if these ruins were not built the way we've been told? Imagine a culture with no steel, no machines, and no electricity, yet somehow shaping granite smoother than modern lasers. Imagine entire cities carved from stone before humanity was supposed to have agriculture or writing. If that is true, then what else have we misunderstood about our past? These are not just puzzles for archaeologists. They are challenges to everything we think we know about human history. And tonight, we'll explore more than 10 of these mind-bending sites, each one forcing us to confront a darker possibility. Maybe history as we know it is not the full story. Maybe we're standing on the ruins of a past we've already forgotten. For as long as humans have studied the past, we've been left with ruins that refuse to give up their secrets. Scattered across the world are places that look ordinary at first, yet hide details that simply don't fit the story we've been told. Stones carved with impossible precision, monuments built in ways that defy the tools of their time, and entire sites that hint at knowledge long forgotten. In this video, we'll explore more than 10 of these unexplained archaeological mysteries. From South America to Asia, from deserts to jungles, each one raises the same haunting question: how much of human history is still missing? Some may be cultural puzzles, others may point to advanced techniques we can't fully explain, but all of them challenge what we think we know. Let's begin with our first site. High in the Andes of Peru, high in the Peruvian Andes, overlooking the windswept waters of Lake Umayo, stands a site that continues to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike. This place is called Silustani, and it is home to some of the most unusual and refined stone structures in South America. At first glance, the site may appear like a collection of ruins, cylindrical towers rising from the rugged landscape. But a closer look reveals a mystery that runs far deeper. The towers are known as chulpas. They were used as funerary monuments by the Colla people, a pre-Incan civilization that flourished in this region before being absorbed by the Inca Empire in the 15th century. These towers, some reaching heights of over 12 meters, were intended to house the remains of nobility and important figures, linking the dead with the sky and the surrounding mountains in a powerful expression of belief. The cultural purpose of Silustani is relatively well understood. What is not understood, however, is how it was built. Each tower is made of massive stone blocks, carved and shaped with remarkable precision. The blocks do not simply stack one atop another. They lock together with interlocking edges, curved surfaces, and joints so exact that even today you cannot slide a knife blade into the seams. This kind of three-dimensional fitting resembles the precision of modern engineering. Yet it was created in a time when the Colla people, according to mainstream history, did not have advanced tools. What makes this so unusual is the complete absence of evidence for metal tools. Archaeologists have found no chisels, saws, or hammers capable of cutting hard stone like andesite and diorite. Even bronze, which was known in the Andes at the time, is far too soft to produce the razor-sharp corners and polished faces visible in Silustani's towers. If bronze cannot cut these stones and there is no sign of iron or steel, then what method was used? This is where the mystery deepens. Conventional explanations suggest that the stones may have been hammered slowly with other stones, shaped gradually over many years. While this is theoretically possible, it raises questions. Why is there no evidence of trial and error? The blocks at Silustani do not show irregular edges or mistakes that were corrected. Instead, they appear smooth, even, and deliberate, as though produced by a system of design far ahead of its time. Alternative theories have emerged, each one attempting to explain the unexplainable. Some researchers propose that the builders may have used natural chemicals or plant extracts to soften stone temporarily, making it malleable like clay before it hardened again. Local legends even speak of liquids that could melt rock, though no such substance has ever been discovered or verified. Another idea is that sound or vibration could have played a role. Ancient cultures are known to have experimented with resonance in music and architecture, and some suggest it is not impossible that vibration was harnessed as a tool for construction. There is also the possibility that the Kolla were not the original builders. Some believe they inherited the site from a much older and more advanced culture, one whose knowledge was later lost. This would not be the only example in the Andes where cultures reused or reoccupied structures whose origins were uncertain. The Incas themselves often built on foundations that predated them, incorporating the work of earlier peoples into their own cities. Could Silustani represent the legacy of an even earlier civilization, one whose methods remain hidden from us? Adding to the intrigue is the fact that Silustani lies over 4,000 meters above sea level. The harsh climate, thin air, and rugged terrain would have made any construction effort even more difficult. Moving and shaping multi-ton blocks under such conditions seems improbable without advanced logistics. Yet the towers still stand, some in excellent condition, resisting centuries of earthquakes and erosion without the use of mortar or deep foundations. Silustani is more than just an archaeological site. It is a riddle carved into stone. The Kolla people left no written record to explain their methods. The tools expected by archaeologists have never been found. The stones themselves show no evidence of primitive carving, yet they display a mastery of geometry and alignment that should have been beyond the reach of a pre-industrial culture. So, how did it happen? Was it simple persistence over generations, each block slowly shaped until it fit? Was it the result of techniques now forgotten, whether chemical, acoustic, or something else entirely? Or is Silustani a silent inheritance from a civilization even older than the Kolla? These questions remain unanswered, and perhaps that is what makes Silustani so captivating. It is not just a burial site on a remote plateau. It is a message in stone, one that refuses to tell its full story, reminding us that the past still holds mysteries we have yet to solve. Barabar Caves, India carved more than 2,000 years ago into solid granite hills. The Barabar Caves of India remain one of the most extraordinary and puzzling monuments in the ancient world. At first sight, they seem simple. Stone chambers hollowed out of rock, but a closer look reveals details that raise more questions than answers. Perfectly smooth walls, flawless mirror-like polish, and echoing acoustics, unlike anything else from their time, make Barabar one of the great enigmas of early architecture. The caves are located in Bihar, India, and are traditionally dated to the reign of Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE. Ashoka, one of the most famous rulers of the Maurya dynasty, is remembered for spreading Buddhism and for commissioning monuments across the Indian subcontinent. Inscriptions found at Barabar link the caves to the Ajivikas, a now extinct religious sect that once coexisted with Buddhists and Jains. This connection provides a historical framework for the site, but it does little to explain how the caves were made. Granite is one of the hardest natural stones, ranking about 6 to 7 on the Mohs scale of mineral hardness. Even today, granite is notoriously difficult to shape and polish, requiring diamond-tipped tools, heavy machinery, and significant time. And yet, more than 2 millennia ago, builders at Barabar somehow carved chambers directly into granite hills, not only shaping the space, but smoothing it to a degree that produces reflections like glass. This level of refinement is unusual even in modern architecture, let alone in the Iron Age. How did they achieve it? What stands out most inside the caves is the polish. Step into one of the chambers, and the surfaces reflect light so cleanly that they resemble mirrors. The floors, walls, and ceilings all share this same gleaming finish, with no visible roughness, tool marks, or inconsistencies. Normally, ancient stonework reveals its process, hammer marks, chiseling, or traces of abrasion. At Barabar, none of this exists. Instead, everything appears seamless, as though the granite was softened, molded, and then hardened again. But no known technique from that era can account for this result. The acoustics add another layer of mystery. The chambers were not simply hollowed out randomly. They are precisely shaped, with curved ceilings and flat floors, creating an intense resonance effect. A voice spoken inside the chamber is magnified and prolonged, creating echoes that can feel almost otherworldly. Researchers studying the caves note that they behave like natural echo chambers, amplifying sound in ways that could have been used for ritual or meditative purposes. This suggests a deliberate design. But how could ancient builders have understood acoustics so well? Mainstream archaeology attributes the caves to patient craftsmanship. Using iron tools, artisans may have slowly chipped away at the granite, polishing the surface with abrasives over years of work. While this explanation is plausible, it does not fully satisfy the questions raised by the extraordinary smoothness and precision. Why are there no visible tool marks? How could such consistent polish be maintained across large surfaces without errors? Even with modern techniques, reproducing the same effect would be a challenge. Alternative ideas have been proposed. Some researchers suggest that a lost method of stone carving or polishing may have been known in ancient India, a technique since forgotten or never recorded. Others point to the caves' acoustics, proposing that they were not mere shelters or shrines, but carefully engineered sound chambers designed for spiritual practices. Could the Ajivikas or another culture have discovered a way to harness sound for altered states of consciousness, meditation, or even healing? It remains an open question. The Barabar caves also raise another possibility. Were they truly created during Ashoka's reign, or were they older structures that the Mauryan rulers later repurposed? If the polish and acoustics represent knowledge lost to later generations, it is conceivable that the caves themselves belonged to an earlier, advanced tradition, later adopted and inscribed during the Mauryan period. Without direct evidence, this theory remains speculation, but it reflects the depth of uncertainty surrounding the site. What makes the Barabar caves so captivating is their silence, both literal and historical. The caves contain inscriptions, but no detailed accounts of how they were carved. The Ajivikas disappeared from history, leaving behind no texts to explain their practices. What we are left with are smooth granite walls, perfect in geometry, resonant in sound, but silent in meaning. Standing inside one of these chambers, a visitor today might feel as though they are inside a space not of this time at all. The walls gleam like polished metal. A whisper bounces around the chamber, returning as a lingering hum. And yet no one can say for certain how or why such perfection was achieved. Were these caves simply the product of extraordinary patience and skill? Did the builders discover techniques that we no longer possess? Or are they fragments of a knowledge much older than Ashoka's empire, a knowledge erased by time? Whatever the answer, the Barabar caves remain a reminder that history is not always as straightforward as we imagine, and that the stones beneath our feet may still hold secrets waiting to be understood. The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, Malta, beneath the streets of Paola, Malta, lies a place that feels more like a dream than an archaeological site. Known as the Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, it is an underground labyrinth carved entirely out of limestone more than 5,000 years ago. At first, it seems like a prehistoric tomb complex, but as you go deeper, you find details that raise questions far beyond burial practices. Among them is a small chamber known as the Oracle Room, a space whose acoustics appear to defy ordinary explanation. The hypogeum was discovered by accident in 1902 during construction work. What began as a small find turned into one of the most important Neolithic discoveries in Europe. The complex covers 3 levels, each carved directly into solid rock, with passages, stairways, and chambers stretching into the earth. Archaeologists believe it was originally used as a sanctuary and later as a necropolis containing the remains of thousands of individuals. Yet its design, precision, and unique qualities make it stand apart from anything else of its time. The Oracle Room, located within the 2nd level, is especially intriguing. It is a small chamber with curved walls and ceilings, measuring only a few meters across. But when a voice is projected inside, the sound resonates through the entire hypogeum. Acoustic tests have shown that the chamber amplifies frequencies around 110 Hz, a range that aligns closely with the natural resonance of the human body and brain. This is not a coincidence easily dismissed, and it raises the question, were the builders intentionally designing a space to interact with sound and consciousness? Studies conducted by acoustic engineers and neuroscientists have confirmed the unusual effect. When a male voice chants or speaks within the Oracle Room, the sound does not just echo. It travels throughout the structure, vibrating the stone in a way that produces standing waves. These waves can be felt physically in the body of the speaker and the listeners, creating a sensation of being immersed in sound. Brainwave monitoring of volunteers exposed to these resonances revealed heightened activity in theta and alpha ranges, frequencies associated with meditative, dreamlike, or trance states. This discovery has led some researchers to propose that the hypogeum was more than a burial site. Instead, it may have been a place where sound itself was used as a form of technology, a way to alter states of consciousness, to heal, or to induce spiritual experiences. In this view, the Oracle Room was not accidental architecture, but a carefully engineered chamber designed to harness sound in ways we are only beginning to study scientifically. The implications are difficult to ignore. If Neolithic builders understood how to manipulate sound at such precise levels, it suggests a level of knowledge not usually credited to prehistoric cultures. They did not have writing, metal tools, or advanced mathematics, yet the hypogeum shows careful planning and acoustic effects that modern architects would struggle to replicate without digital modeling. Was this knowledge discovered through trial and error, or did they possess a deeper understanding of natural laws than we assume? There is also the broader cultural context. Malta's temples, such as Hagar Kim and Manidra, align with astronomical events like solstices and equinoxes. This demonstrates that the island's ancient inhabitants were keen observers of nature and the cosmos. The hypogeum may have been part of this same worldview, where architecture, sound, and spirituality were interconnected. But unlike the open-air temples, the hypogeum creates an interior world, dark, resonant, and immersive, suggesting rituals that were intimate, transformative, and possibly secret. Skeptics argue that the acoustic effects may be natural coincidences, the result of curved stone surfaces amplifying sound by chance. Yet the precision with which the resonance occurs and the fact that it matches frequencies tied to human physiology makes coincidence difficult to accept. It is possible that the builders experimented with sound and space, discovering through practice what modern science now measures with instruments. The Oracle Room remains silent today, protected as part of a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Only a limited number of visitors are allowed each day, both to preserve the delicate structure and to prevent damage from humidity and human presence. But those who have stood inside describe a powerful sensation, the impression that sound is not just heard, but felt, wrapping around the body and altering perception. So, what was the hypogeum really for? Was it a tomb complex, as mainstream archaeology suggests? Was it a sanctuary where sound was used to reach altered states of consciousness? Or was it both, a place where life, death, and transcendence were connected through an ancient form of sound technology? The hypogeum of Hal Saflieni reminds us that prehistoric cultures may have understood aspects of the natural world in ways that modern societies have forgotten. Its silent chambers, its resonant walls, and its mysterious oracle room continue to challenge us with a simple but unsettling question. How much of the human story still lies hidden in the echoes of the past? In the quiet village of Asuka, Japan, lies a mysterious stone structure that seems to resist every conventional explanation. Known today as the Giant Steps of Asuka, this monument is carved directly from a single massive outcrop of granite. At first glance, it looks like an oversized staircase, rising in great blocks of stone. But when you stand before it, questions immediately begin to surface. Who carved this? For what purpose? And why does it not resemble anything else from Japan's ancient past? The Asuka region is well known for its historical importance. It was once the political and cultural heart of Japan during the Asuka period between the 6th and 8th centuries. Countless burial mounds, temples, and early Buddhist sites dot the landscape. Yet the giant steps stand apart from all of this. They are not connected to any known tomb, shrine, or ceremonial complex. Instead, they appear in isolation, carved with a precision and scale that feel entirely out of place for their time. The structure consists of huge steps, each one nearly a meter in height. For comparison, the average step in ordinary architecture is less than 20 centimeters, built for human stride. The steps at Asuka are far too large for practical use, forcing anyone who attempts to climb them to hoist themselves upward rather than walk naturally. This has led researchers to suggest that the steps were never intended to function as a staircase at all. Instead, they may represent a symbolic or ceremonial design, though no written record survives to explain it. What makes the giant steps even more enigmatic is how they were carved. The entire structure is hewn from a single granite boulder, shaped into geometric planes and sharp corners. The surfaces are smooth and even, showing little of the irregularities usually left by primitive stoneworking techniques. And yet, despite centuries of study, no tools have ever been discovered at the site that could explain this level of precision. Granite is one of the hardest rocks on Earth, and carving it requires specialized techniques even with modern machinery. In Japan's early history, the available tools would have been made of stone, bronze, or at best iron, all of which are far too soft to cut granite cleanly. To achieve the giant steps, artisans would have needed to grind and polish for years, if not decades. And still, the result would rarely produce the crisp edges and uniform planes that are visible here. Was this the work of incredible patience, or evidence of a method that we no longer understand? Theories about the purpose of the giant steps are varied. Some archaeologists suggest it may have been part of a larger structure, now lost to erosion or destruction, possibly serving as the foundation for a tomb or temple. Others speculate that it may have been a kind of astronomical platform, used to observe the heavens or mark seasonal events. But without any inscriptions, artifacts, or surrounding structures, the site provides no clear answers. Local legends offer more dramatic interpretations. Some stories speak of giants who once lived in the land, beings so large that the enormous steps would have been perfectly suited to their stride. Others point to the possibility of contact with a forgotten civilization, one that possessed techniques or technologies unknown to later Japanese culture. While these ideas remain speculative, they reflect the unease many feel when standing before something that does not fit neatly into history. What deepens the mystery is the silence of historical records. Japanese history is well documented, especially from the Asuka period onward. Dynastic chronicles, temple records, and early Buddhist texts provide details about cultural and political life. Yet none of these mention the giant steps. It is as though they never existed in the minds of the people who lived there, despite their massive and unmistakable presence. This absence raises the possibility that the monument predates written history in the region, belonging to an era older than we currently recognize. When compared with other enigmatic megalithic sites around the world, such as Pumapunku in Bolivia or the Baalbek stones in Lebanon, the giant steps share a familiar pattern: oversized construction, unexplained precision, and missing cultural context. These features often spark debate about whether ancient civilizations were capable of more than we assume, or whether we are missing entire chapters of human development. Standing at the base of the giant steps today, one is left with a sense of contradiction. The monument is undeniably real, carved into solid granite, yet its purpose is invisible. It cannot be comfortably explained as a shrine, a tomb, or even a practical structure. Instead, it lingers as a puzzle, a work of immense effort without a clear reason. So, what are we to make of the giant steps of Asker? Were they a fragment of a forgotten ceremonial practice, an unfinished project, or a monument from a civilization that left no trace behind? Until more evidence is uncovered, the giant steps remain exactly what their name suggests: a climb into mystery, one level at a time, On the outskirts of Nanjing, China, there lies a quarry that seems less like a work site and more like the ruins of an impossible ambition. Known as the Yangshan Quarry, it holds some of the largest stone blocks ever attempted by human hands. At first glance, they appear as unfinished cuts in the mountainside, but when their size and precision are measured, they raise questions that history has yet to answer. Who planned this and why was it abandoned? The Yangshan Quarry dates back to the early 15th century, during the reign of the Yongle Emperor of the Ming dynasty. Historical records suggest the quarry was commissioned to supply stone for a massive stele, intended to honor the emperor's mausoleum. Workers began carving directly into the bedrock, cutting out enormous stone blocks with remarkable accuracy. 3 pieces were partially detached, one measuring over 16,000 tons, another more than 8,000 tons, and a third weighing several thousand tons. To put this into perspective, the largest stone block used in the Great Pyramid of Giza weighs about 80 tons. At Yangshan, the blocks are more than 100 times heavier. The scale of the project soon revealed its own impossibility. Calculations showed that transporting stones of such immense weight across the uneven landscape toward the mausoleum was beyond the capacity of the era's technology. Even with thousands of workers, wooden rollers, and sheer manpower, the logistics would have been insurmountable. As a result, the project was abandoned, leaving the blocks frozen in time, still resting in the quarry where they were cut. The puzzle is not only the size of the stones, but also the precision of the quarry work. Visitors often remark on the clean, sharp lines of the cuts. The corners are neatly defined, and the surfaces appear unnaturally smooth for a site that has been exposed to centuries of weather. Unlike many quarries where hammer marks or uneven chisel strokes are visible, the Yangshan blocks display a level of finish that seems advanced even by today's standards. How were such clean cuts made with the tools of the 15th century? Conventional explanations suggest that iron chisels and hammers, along with repetitive labor, slowly detach the blocks from the mountain. Yet no significant tool marks remain, and the precision of the cuts raises doubts about whether basic iron tools could achieve such results on such a massive scale. This has led some researchers to wonder whether the quarry was truly begun in the Ming era, or whether it was an older site, reused or repurposed by the emperor's engineers. The idea of an earlier origin is not without precedent. In other parts of the world, cultures have built upon or repurposed megalithic sites, whose original builders remain unknown. If Yangshan was once such a site, the Ming engineers may have inherited a project they could not complete, leaving the colossal stones abandoned when they realized the task was beyond them. Still, the official explanation remains straightforward. The project was too ambitious and had to be stopped. Yet the silence of historical records leaves gaps. If the emperor had indeed commanded such an undertaking, why are the details so scarce? Why are there no records of the tools, the workforce, or the methods employed? The absence of such documentation fuels speculation, suggesting that either the project was deliberately erased from memory as an embarrassment, or that it was never entirely a Ming project to begin with. Standing at the site today, the impression is haunting. The quarry looks as though the workers left suddenly, leaving half-finished giants of stone still tethered to the bedrock. The largest block, at over 16,000 tons, looms like a monument in itself, larger than any known megalith ever moved by human hands. Even if it had been successfully freed, how could it have been transported? The mausoleum lies more than 10 kilometers away, over uneven hills and valleys. No evidence of ramps, rollers, or other transport systems has ever been found. This leaves us with difficult questions. Was the Yangshan quarry simply a miscalculation, the result of imperial ambition colliding with the limits of technology? Was it an attempt to copy or revive techniques from an older, forgotten tradition? Or was it something else entirely, a project whose true story never made it into the official histories of the Ming? The abandoned stones of Yangshan remind us of the fragile boundary between human vision and human ability. They stand as silent witnesses to a project that was never finished, yet their sheer scale continues to defy explanation. In their immensity and precision, they remain a monument, not to success, but to mystery. A puzzle carved into the heart of a mountain, waiting for answers that history has yet to provide. Magnetic Ridge, Ural Basin. Deep within the forests and mountains of Russia's Ural Basin lies a place where the natural laws of magnetism appear to falter. Known to a few explorers as the Magnetic Ridge, it is not marked on most maps, and it remains one of the least studied anomalies on Earth. What makes it so unusual is not simply the intensity of the magnetic field in the area, but its unpredictability. Compasses spin without direction, GPS devices fail, and travelers often report unsettling physical effects. Standing in such a place, one cannot help but wonder, what exactly is happening here? The Ural Mountains have long been a frontier between Europe and Asia, rich in minerals and history, but the Magnetic Ridge is different. It is a remote stretch of rocky highland where instruments behave in ways they should not. Surveyors entering the area describe compass needles spinning wildly, freezing in place, or pointing to directions that defy geography. Modern devices fare no better. GPS units lose signal, coordinates drift, and drones crash for no apparent reason. The ridge seems to generate its own field of interference, a disturbance far stronger than the ordinary magnetic variations caused by underground minerals. Geologists who have studied the region admit that the anomaly does not fit neatly into conventional models. Normally, magnetic disturbances are linked to large deposits of magnetite or iron-rich rock, but surveys of the area reveal no such concentrations. Instead, the ridge produces a field that fluctuates unpredictably in both strength and direction. At times, readings are many times higher than the Earth's normal surface magnetism. At other times, the field collapses entirely, leaving instruments useless. It is this instability, more than the strength itself, that baffles researchers. Explorers who venture into the magnetic ridge often report more than just instrument failure. Many describe physical symptoms, headaches, dizziness, nausea, and an uncomfortable pressure in the skull or chest. Others speak of confusion, disorientation, or sudden anxiety while inside the zone. Psychologists suggest that low-frequency magnetic oscillations may be interacting with the brain's natural rhythms, disturbing normal neural activity. In laboratory conditions, Similar effects have been observed when people are exposed to fluctuating electromagnetic fields. But in the case of the ridge, the intensity and randomness make the experience more disquieting. There are also accounts of unusual perceptions. Some explorers mention hearing faint sounds, seeing distortions in light, or even feeling vibrations through the ground that cannot be explained by ordinary geology. While anecdotal, these reports are consistent enough to fuel ongoing speculation that the ridge is more than a natural formation. Mainstream science has proposed a few possibilities. One is that the ridge lies along a fault line where piezoelectric effects, electric charges produced by pressure in certain rocks, could generate unstable magnetic fields. Another is that underground formations of unknown composition may be interacting with the Earth's natural magnetism in ways not yet understood. These explanations remain tentative, however, because detailed study of the site is extremely difficult. Equipment tends to fail quickly, and the region's remoteness makes extended research challenging. Beyond geology, more speculative theories exist. Some suggest that the ridge may conceal a fragment of extraterrestrial material, perhaps a buried meteorite or something even stranger. Others propose that it could be the remains of a lost machine or ancient technology hidden beneath the surface, a relic of a time or civilization long forgotten. While such ideas lack evidence, they persist because conventional science has yet to provide a convincing answer. Satellite images of the ridge add another layer of intrigue. From above, the formation appears unusually straight and elongated, unlike most natural ridges shaped by tectonic or glacial processes. This geometric appearance has led some to question whether the site is entirely natural or whether it has been altered either by ancient human hands or by forces we do not yet understand. The Russian military is rumored to have studied the magnetic ridge during the Soviet era, though no official records have ever been released. Independent researchers attempting to investigate often report being monitored or finding their efforts cut short by unexplained interference. Whether this is coincidence or evidence of deliberate secrecy remains uncertain. Today, the magnetic ridge remains largely unknown to the wider world, visited only by small numbers of explorers and researchers willing to risk malfunctioning equipment and uneasy experiences. For some, it is simply a geological anomaly awaiting better study. For others, it may represent one of the last true enigmas of our planet, a natural laboratory where the familiar rules of physics bend in ways we cannot yet explain. So what is the truth of the magnetic ridge? Is it the result of unique geological forces, a buried fragment of cosmic origin, or something far more mysterious? Until comprehensive studies can be conducted without failure, the ridge will remain an open question, a silent reminder that even on Earth, there are still places where science meets uncertainty, and where the compass needle no longer points the way. Amazon's hidden grid, South America. For centuries, the Amazon rainforest was thought to be an untouched wilderness, vast, untamed, and too hostile to ever sustain large, organized civilizations. Historians believed its soil was too poor, its environment too harsh for anything more than scattered tribes to survive. But in recent decades, a different story has begun to emerge. Beneath the dense canopy, hidden for centuries by thick jungle, lies evidence of a complex network of settlements, roads, and ceremonial centers. This discovery has come to be known as the Amazon's hidden grid, and it is rewriting what we thought we knew about the past. The breakthrough came with the use of LiDAR technology, or light detection and ranging. Mounted on aircraft, LiDAR scans the ground below by firing pulses of laser light through the forest canopy and measuring their return. What it reveals is a bare earth model of the landscape, stripping away the trees to show what lies beneath. When archaeologists first applied this technology in parts of Brazil and Bolivia, they were astonished by the results. Beneath the greenery, they found vast geometric patterns, straight roads running for kilometers, circular plazas, rectangular platforms, and interconnected settlements stretching across the forest floor. What makes these discoveries so important is their scale and precision. The settlements were not isolated villages, but organized communities connected by engineered highways. Roads ran in straight lines, intersecting at right angles, forming a grid-like system that extended across large areas. Some plazas measured more than 150 meters in diameter, surrounded by earthworks, mounds, and causeways. This level of planning suggests centralized organization, urban design, and political structure, qualities long thought absent in the Amazon. The revelation challenges a long-held assumption. For decades, scholars believed the Amazon's soil, known as oxysol, was too acidic and nutrient-poor to sustain agriculture for large populations. Yet alongside the settlements, archaeologists have identified patches of terra preta, or black earth, a man-made soil enriched with charcoal, bone, and organic matter. This fertile soil appears to have been deliberately created by ancient Amazonians, allowing them to farm intensively and support thriving communities. If correct, it suggests a highly sophisticated form of environmental management, one that transformed the rainforest rather than simply adapting to it. So far, surveys have identified over 100 major sites, but this is likely only the beginning. The Amazon covers more than 5 million square kilometers, and only a fraction has been scanned with LiDAR. Some researchers estimate that thousands of settlements remain hidden, waiting to be revealed. If true, the Amazon may have once supported millions of people, forming a civilization rivaling the city-states of Mesopotamia or the Maya. The implications are profound. If the Amazon was home to advanced societies, then the landscape we see today may be a result of centuries of human engineering. The rainforest itself could be, in part, a cultural artifact, an ecological system shaped by careful land use, forest gardens, and agroforestry practices. This view transforms the image of the Amazon from untouched wilderness to a legacy of human design. But questions remain. Why did these civilizations vanish? One possibility is that they declined due to environmental shifts or internal pressures. Another is that they collapsed rapidly after European contact, when diseases brought by colonists devastated indigenous populations. With no one left to maintain the settlements, the jungle reclaimed them, leaving only faint traces beneath the canopy. The geometric designs of the Amazon's hidden grid also raise intriguing cultural questions. Some settlements are aligned with astronomical events, similar to patterns seen in other ancient civilizations. Radial designs, with roads radiating outward like spokes from a wheel, suggest ceremonial or cosmological significance. Were these societies in contact with other cultures, exchanging ideas across great distances? Or did they independently develop similar concepts of sacred geometry and urban planning? Despite the growing evidence, debate continues. Some scholars argue that the discoveries represent regional cultures rather than a single, unified civilization. Others caution against exaggerating the scale, but even the most conservative interpretations acknowledge that the Amazon was far more densely populated and organized than previously believed. Standing in the forest today, surrounded by dense trees and the sounds of wildlife, it is difficult to imagine that entire cities once thrived here. Yet the LiDAR images tell a different story, a hidden world of plazas, roads, and networks that stretch beyond sight. It's a reminder that history can be lost not only to time, but also to nature, concealed beneath layers of soil and vegetation until the right tools reveal it again. The Amazon's hidden grid invites us to reconsider what civilization means. It suggests that complexity does not always take the form of monumental stone structures. Sometimes it exists in harmony with the environment, blending into the landscape, designed to vanish when abandoned. Perhaps this is why the Amazon still holds so many mysteries, because its greatest achievements were built to live alongside the forest, not against it. Ural megaliths, Russia. Hidden deep within the Ural Mountains of Russia are stone formations that have long puzzled explorers, geologists, and historians alike. Known as the Ural megaliths, these enormous blocks of stone appear stacked and arranged in ways that seem both natural and deliberate. Some argue they are unusual geological formations, shaped over millions of years by ice and erosion. Others believe they may be remnants of an ancient civilization, a forgotten chapter of history written in stone. Standing before them, one is left to ask, are these works of nature or works of human hands? The Urals stretch for more than 2,000 kilometers, forming a natural boundary between Europe and Asia, rich in minerals and history. The mountains have been home to human cultures for thousands of years, but scattered across their slopes, particularly near sites such as Mount Manpupuna and the Dyatlov Pass region, are stone formations that defy simple classification. Gigantic blocks, some estimated to weigh thousands of tons, rest in what appear to be stacked arrangements. Many feature sharp edges, flat surfaces, or geometric alignments not typically found in natural rock outcrops. What makes these formations unusual is the sense of intentionality they seem to convey. In some areas, the stones are fitted together like massive walls, with edges that line up almost perfectly. In others, blocks appear to have been rotated or positioned to balance in ways that look deliberate rather than random. Yet no evidence of quarries, tools, or settlements has ever been found nearby. The stones sit in isolation, surrounded by forests and mountain slopes, with no cultural artifacts to explain them. Geologists argue that freeze-thaw cycles, tectonic forces, and erosion could account for much of what is seen. Over time, natural processes can create angular shapes and break rocks into segments that mimic human construction. Still, even supportive scientists admit that some of the formations are unusually precise, with right angles and flat planes that are rare in natural geology. This is why debate continues, with some suggesting that at least parts of the megaliths may have been shaped or altered by human hands. Alternative theories propose more dramatic possibilities. Legends among local peoples speak of giants who once roamed the land, beings large enough to lift and place such stones with ease. Others suggest the formations may be remnants of a civilization that predates known history in the region, a culture that vanished without leaving written records. Some even link the Ural megaliths to broader myths of lost civilizations that spanned multiple continents, leaving behind massive stone monuments as their only legacy. The scale of the stones is difficult to overstate. While some blocks are estimated at several hundred tons, others may weigh as much as 3,000 or 4,000 tons, far beyond what even the largest ancient construction projects are known to have used. For comparison, the largest stone in Egypt's Great Pyramid weighs about 80 tons, and the famous trilithon stones at Baalbek in Lebanon weigh around 1,000 tons. If the larger estimates of the Ural stones are correct, then they rank among the heaviest ever identified on Earth. Moving or shaping them with known ancient tools and techniques would have been nearly impossible. Complicating the mystery further is the absence of cultural memory. Unlike Stonehenge in England or the pyramids of Egypt, which are woven into the myths and traditions of the people who lived nearby, the Ural megaliths have no direct link to known cultures. Local legends describe them as the work of gods or giants, but no inscriptions, artifacts, or historical texts mention their construction. It's as though they simply appeared, existing outside the timeline of human history. Researchers who have visited the formations describe an uncanny atmosphere. Some report unusual compass readings or magnetic disturbances near certain stones, though these accounts remain anecdotal. Others simply note the overwhelming scale, the sense of being dwarfed by blocks of stone, larger than buildings, placed in arrangements that resist easy explanation. Whether natural or artificial, the effect on those who see them is the same, a sense of awe mixed with mystery. So what are the Ural megaliths? Are they masterpieces of nature, shaped by countless years of geological forces? Are they the work of forgotten builders, evidence of a civilization erased from history? Or are they something in between, natural structures modified by human hands, leaving us with a puzzle that blurs the line between geology and archaeology? Until detailed studies are undertaken, the answer remains uncertain. What is clear is that the Ural megaliths remind us how much of the world remains unexplored and unexplained. In the remote silence of the mountains, these stones stand as immovable witnesses to a past we cannot fully see, challenging us to question where nature ends and human history begins. And Madol, Micronesia in the remote Pacific, on the eastern shore of the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia, lies a ruined city unlike anything else in the world. Known as Nan Madol, it has often been called the Venice of the Pacific, a complex of artificial islands connected by canals, built entirely from massive basalt columns. At first glance, it looks like the remains of a fortress or palace, but when studied closely, it raises questions that remain unanswered to this day. Who built this city? How did they move its enormous stones? And what was its true purpose? Nan Madol stretches across more than 90 small islets, covering an area of roughly 200 acres. The foundations of the city are built from giant basalt logs, naturally formed prismatic columns of volcanic rock stacked in crisscross patterns like lumber. Some of these columns are more than 6 meters long and weigh up to 25 tons. Without the use of mortar, the builders created towering walls, platforms and enclosures, all resting on artificial bases in the shallow lagoon. The result is a city that appears both monumental and strangely isolated, surrounded by sea and silence. According to local tradition, Nan Madol was the ceremonial and political center of the Sodler dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei from around the 12th to the 17th century. The site was said to be the seat of power, where chiefs and priests governed, performed rituals, and controlled trade and tribute from surrounding islands. Oral legends describe the city as a place of both authority and fear, where strict laws were enforced and the rulers demanded absolute obedience. Yet the mythology also hints at something stranger, stories of powerful sorcerers who commanded the stones to move through magic, raising the question of whether the legends conceal memories of techniques now lost, the engineering. Puzzle is one of the greatest mysteries of Nan Madol's basalt columns of such size are extremely difficult to transport, and yet tens of thousands were used to build the city. Archaeologists estimate the site contains more than 250 million tons of stone. How could a society without wheels, pulleys, or large draft animals have moved and positioned these logs of basalt? The stones were quarried miles away from the site, requiring them to be transported across water before being raised into towering walls. Even with modern equipment, replicating this achievement would be an immense task. Some researchers argue that the builders may have floated the stones on rafts, using the tides to assist in movement. Others suggest they may have rolled them over logs or dragged them with ropes. While these explanations are possible, they remain speculative, as no definitive evidence of transport methods has been found. What makes the feat more intriguing is that the builders not only moved the stones, but also stacked them with remarkable stability, creating interlocking walls that have withstood centuries of storms, earthquakes, and erosion. The layout of Nan Madol also adds to its mystery. The canals that run through the city give it the appearance of a water-bound labyrinth, and the separation of the islets suggests deliberate planning. Some areas appear to have been used for ceremonial purposes, others for dwellings, and still others for burials. The most imposing structure, known as Nan Duas, is a walled enclosure thought to have served as a royal tomb. The presence of canals has led some scholars to suggest that water itself held symbolic or ritual meaning in the city's design, perhaps linked to beliefs about life, death, and the spirit world. Despite these insights, many questions remain unresolved. Why was the city built in such an inaccessible location on coral reefs rather than inland? What motivated the rulers to invest such effort in constructing on water when building on land would have been far easier? And why did the city eventually fall into abandonment, leaving behind only ruins and legend? Today, Nan Madol is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but much of it remains unexplored. Excavations have revealed artifacts of daily life, pottery, tools, ornaments, but little that explains how the city was constructed on such a scale. Its isolation, size, and the enormity of its stones continue to inspire speculation, with some suggesting links to other megalithic traditions or even to lost civilizations remembered only in myth. Nan Madol stands as both an achievement and a riddle. It testifies to the ingenuity of Micronesia's ancient builders, who created a city unlike any other in Oceania. Yet it also invites us to consider the limits of what we know about the past. Was this simply the product of extraordinary human effort, or did it draw upon knowledge now forgotten? Until we can answer those questions, Nan Madol will remain what it has always been, a city half remembered, half hidden, resting quietly on the waters of the Pacific. Pumapunku, Bolivia High in the Bolivian Andes, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, lies a site that has puzzled historians and archaeologists for generations. Known as Pumapunku, it is part of the larger Tiwanaku complex, once the center of a great pre-Columbian civilization. But while Tiwanaku itself holds many wonders, Pumapunku stands apart. Its stonework, its precision, and its sheer mystery have made it one of the most debated archaeological sites in the world. How could people, without modern tools or technology, create structures so exact that they continue to defy explanation? Pumapunku is best known for its immense stone blocks, some weighing more than 100 tons. These blocks are not only massive but cut and shaped with extraordinary precision. Among them are the famous H-blocks, carved stones that fit together like parts of a complex machine. The cuts are so straight, the angles so sharp, and the surfaces so flat that some researchers compare them to modern machining. When examined closely, many of the blocks show interlocking features, grooves, slots, and protrusions that seem designed for assembly, as though they were part of a system of prefabricated pieces. The conventional view holds that the Tiwanaku culture, which flourished from roughly 500 to 1000 AD, built Pumapunku as part of their ceremonial and political center. Archaeologists believe it was a grand temple or platform used for religious rituals and elite gatherings. Yet the precision of the stonework raises doubts about whether the tools and techniques available at that time were sufficient to produce such results. Bronze chisels, the most advanced tools the Tiwanaku people are known to have had, would struggle to carve the hard andesite and red sandstone used at the site. Even today, working with such stone requires diamond-tipped tools and heavy machinery. Transporting the blocks presents another mystery. Many of the largest stones came from quarries located more than 10 kilometers away, and some from as far as 90 kilometers across Lake Titicaca. Without wheels, pulleys, or draft animals, how did ancient builders move blocks weighing more than 100 tons across mountains and water? Some theories suggest they used log rollers or reed boats, but the logistics remain daunting. The sheer size of the stones rivals those found in other megalithic sites around the world, and the question of transport has never been fully resolved. Then there is the matter of construction. The stones at Pumapunku are not simply stacked. They are shaped to fit together with remarkable precision, often without mortar. In some cases, thin blades cannot pass between the joins. The level of accuracy suggests not trial and error, but a planned and sophisticated approach, almost industrial in nature. For many observers, this level of craftsmanship feels out of place in a society that otherwise left behind pottery, textiles, and simple tools, objects that do not suggest access to advanced stone-cutting technology. Alternative theories have emerged to explain the site. Some propose that the Tiwanaku were not the original builders, but instead inherited Puma Punku from an earlier unknown civilization whose knowledge was lost to time. Others suggest that the builders discovered methods of softening stone through chemical means, perhaps using plant-based compounds that allowed them to mold stone before it hardened again. A more speculative idea links the site to acoustic or vibrational technologies, where sound frequencies were used to fracture and shape stone. While none of these theories have been proven, they persist because conventional explanations struggle to account for Puma Punku's level of refinement. One detail often overlooked is that much of Puma Punku remains unfinished or collapsed. Earthquakes and centuries of erosion have reduced the once grand structure to scattered blocks, leaving researchers to piece together its original design. Some stones appear abandoned mid-cut, as if the builders suddenly stopped work. Whether this was due to natural disaster, societal collapse, or some other unknown reason remains uncertain. What adds to the intrigue is Puma Punku's cultural significance. For the Tiwanaku people, this was not merely a construction project, but a sacred site. Its alignment with celestial events and its role within the broader Tiwanaku complex suggest it was central to their cosmology and political authority. Yet the craftsmanship still seems out of step with what we know of their capabilities, leaving us with a contradiction, a ceremonial site that appears to have been built with techniques beyond its time. Today, Puma Punku stands as a silent riddle. Visitors walk among the fallen stones and marvel at their geometry, their weight, and their precision. Archaeologists continue to study, measure, and debate, but the fundamental questions remain unanswered. How were the stones cut? How were they moved? And why was such precision necessary in a site built more than 1,000 years ago? Perhaps the most unsettling possibility is this: Puma Punku is a fragment of history that doesn't fit neatly into our timeline. Whether it was the work of the Tiwanaku alone or the legacy of a lost civilization, it challenges our assumptions about human ingenuity and the technologies of the past. Until we uncover definitive answers, Puma Punku will remain what it is today, a place where stone whispers of forgotten knowledge and where the line between history and mystery grows thin. Göbekli Tepe, Turkey on a hilltop in southeastern Turkey, lies a site that has been called the world's first temple. Known as Göbekli Tepe, it is a place that rewrites the timeline of human history. At first glance, it looks like a scattering of stone circles buried beneath layers of earth, but once excavated, the scale and age of this site stunned archaeologists. Built more than 11,000 years ago, thousands of years before the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge in England, it stands as one of the most extraordinary and mysterious achievements of prehistoric people. How at the dawn of agriculture could humans have created something so vast and sophisticated? Göbekli Tepe was first identified in the 1960s, but dismissed as a simple cemetery. It wasn't until the 1990s, when excavations began in earnest, that its significance was revealed. What emerged from the soil were massive T-shaped pillars, some standing up to 6 meters tall and weighing as much as 20 tons. These pillars were arranged in circular enclosures, carefully positioned in patterns that suggested planning and purpose. What was most surprising, however, was the dating. Radiocarbon tests showed the site was over 11,000 years old, making it at least 6,000 years older than the first cities of Mesopotamia. The stones themselves tell an even deeper story. Many of the pillars are intricately carved with animals, foxes, lions, snakes, scorpions, and birds, etched into the hard limestone with remarkable skill. These carvings are not random decorations. They appear in symbolic groupings, hinting at a complex system of meaning or mythology. Some archaeologists suggest that these were representations of constellations, tying the site to early forms of astronomy. Others believe they were part of ritual practices, a symbolic language of life, death, and the spirit world. Whatever their meaning, they reveal that the people who built Göbekli Tepe were not primitive hunters, but individuals capable of sophisticated thought and design. Yet, this raises an unsettling question: who built it and why? The people of that era had not yet developed writing, pottery, or farming on a wide scale. They lived in small, mobile groups, hunting and gathering for survival. And yet, they somehow came together to quarry, transport, and erect massive stones weighing tons, arranging them in carefully engineered circles. Without beasts of burden, metal tools, or the wheel, how could they have accomplished such a feat? The effort would have required coordinated labor, advanced knowledge of stoneworking, and long-term planning, traits usually associated with much later civilizations. Some researchers argue that Göbekli Tepe was the birthplace of organized religion. They suggest that spiritual or ritual gatherings here gave rise to the first large-scale human cooperation, which in turn led to the development of agriculture and permanent settlements. In this view, religion came before farming, not the other way around. Others see Göbekli Tepe as a ceremonial center that drew people from far distances, a place of pilgrimage that united scattered tribes in shared rituals. Whatever its purpose, it demonstrates that social and cultural complexity existed long before we thought it did. Adding to the mystery is the fact that Göbekli Tepe was deliberately buried. Around 8,000 years ago, after centuries of use, the enclosures were filled in with tons of soil and debris. Whether this was an act of ritual closure, a practical measure, or something else entirely remains unknown. This burial preserved the site almost perfectly, protecting its pillars and carvings for millennia until modern archaeologists uncovered them. But it also raises questions. Why would a society that invested so much effort into building such a monumental site choose to bury it? Was it abandonment, reverence, or fear of something we may never understand? Excavations continue to reveal more of the site. Only a fraction of Göbekli Tepe has been uncovered. Archaeologists estimate that dozens more stone circles still lie buried beneath the ground. Each new discovery deepens the mystery, showing levels of craftsmanship and symbolism that seem far ahead of their time. The site has forced historians to reconsider the linear model of human progress. Instead of small steps from simple villages to complex cities, Göbekli Tepe suggests that advanced social and cultural structures existed long before agriculture or writing. Standing at the site today, one cannot help but feel a sense of awe. These stones, raised by hands more than 11 millennia ago, continue to watch over the Anatolian landscape. They whisper of a forgotten chapter in human history, one where people without cities, metals, or written words still manage to carve their beliefs into stone and build monuments that endure to this day. Göbekli Tepe is not just an archaeological site, it is a challenge to our understanding of the past. It asks us to reconsider the origins of civilization, religion, and human cooperation. It reminds us that history is not always a straight line, but a complex web with hidden beginnings. And perhaps most of all, it shows that even in the distant past, humanity was capable of imagination, belief, and achievement far greater than we once thought possible. History isn't always what it seems. Each of these places, whether carved in stone, buried beneath the earth, or hidden in the jungle, feels less like a monument and more like a coded message. They remind us that our story is not yet complete, that entire chapters of the human past remain unwritten. What else lies hidden, waiting to be uncovered? Could history itself be entirely different from what we've been taught? Each mystery holds a secret, but only time, and perhaps us, will bring it to light. Which of these sites do you think guards the greatest secret? Share your theory in the comments below. We're reading them all. And remember, if the past can still hide this much from us, what else is waiting just beyond discovery?